This is going to be an exciting season for a couple of reasons. We have some teams that are just, I think, exiting their rebuild. The Montreal Canadiens. I'm really interested in how the Vancouver Canucks, approach this season, how they do, how that approaches, how that affects Quinn Hughes. You have the Red Wings, who haven't made the playoffs in a little bit, but I'm just really interested to see what happens with that franchise and if they can make the playoffs. These are all teams that have been interested in McTavish that to differing degrees, and I am just begging one of these franchises. I think, and there's other insiders that do believe that you can pry this guy out of Anaheim. It's not impossible. You just have to make the right move or offer. Guys, welcome back to Pixel Plus Hockey. If you could make sure to hit that subscribe button, it would be so greatly appreciated. And thank you so much to those that are already supporting me as well. It is very, very humbling. So what I was saying before I believe to be true. I believe that all of these teams have the ability to make some kind of decent offer for Mason McTavish. Okay, and that especially is the Montreal Canadiens. And I'm telling you, off of these new reports that we're getting from insiders, it really does seem that this is getting toxic. Okay, it doesn't seem that it's going very well, at least from the most recent report from Elliot Friedman. Now, if you follow this channel for a while, generally speaking, I am a big fan of teams being harder on players. Now, I understand that's a double-edged sword because number one, you can ruin a relationship with a player, if you understand what I mean. Like, that's not necessarily a good thing. If you do it in the wrong way, you can negotiate in the right way, where you look like the reasonable side. As long as you're being reasonable and hard on the player, I think that negotiating from that stance is much better. But we have some really spicy stuff coming in from Elliot Friedman right now. Quote, Verbeek and the Ducks in the past have shown a willingness to keep guys out until they get what they are comfortable with. So I always look at that and say, if they don't find a deal they like, could they keep him out for longer and be comfortable with that? And the history of the Ducks says, yes, they would. Close quote. And I am telling you right now, that I know we've heard that they don't want to trade McTavish. I mean, of course, who wants to trade Mason McTavish? Nobody wants to. But I'm telling you, these reports, I am begging one of these teams, Canucks, Habs, Red Wings, make a deal with this team because it's clearly going that way because of what insiders are saying. If it's getting this toxic, I'm telling you, there's a trade to be made here. Now, we have the AFP analytics, which is great for projecting contracts. It gives you a good middle ground for what a player is expected to get, and I want to know your guys' opinion on the contract that McTavish is projected to get. Here we have some information. AFP analytics projects McTavish to land a 6-year deal, $6.7 million AAV contract on a longer-term deal, or a 3-year deal at $3.98 million AAV if a shorter bridge deal is on the table, close quote. So first off, I'm going to go right off of the bat and say I would give him $6.7 million times 6. I err on the side of caution getting a player to go the full, hopefully 6, 7, 8 years on a long-term deal. I think that McTavish will be one of those players that is healthy enough, consistent enough. He would have scored 60 points last year on the Anaheim Ducks. So I have absolutely no problem with going to a long-term contract at about 6.7. I'd even be willing to go a little bit higher than that to entice him to come over to one of these hockey clubs. It's interesting, though, because McTavish himself might actually be interested in a bridge because there's a lot of disagreement between Anaheim and McTavish here that we have another interesting quote from Friedman here. The one thing I've consistently heard over the last little while is that they're not crazy about bridging McTavish. I've heard they prefer long-term, but it might not be easy to get the two sides to agree on a longer-term projection, close quote. So essentially, obviously, the player saying, I could maybe be an $8.5 million, $9 million player in 2 or 3 years, which actually I don't think that's completely wrong for McTavish. I think he's going to be pretty good. I'm not sure if he's going to be like a consistent point per game guy, but a solidified top six center with size, those guys get paid quite a bit. So I understand why McTavish might want a bridge deal. If I was the Habs, if I was the Vancouver Canucks, if I was the Detroit Red Wings, or any of these teams interested in him, I would be willing to pay a bit of a premium to get him to sign longer term, in my opinion. I think that the Anaheim Ducks are generally just afraid of trading a centerman. I think that they are very afraid of trading a centerman that has a lot of potential, especially in today's NHL. They are very rare to come by. A lot of these teams are really struggling down the middle. I mean, you look at Vancouver. Again, there's comments in my comment section, and I actually agree with these commenters saying I don't trust Philip Hedl, long term as a second line center. I mean, they could McTavish would look pretty darn good there. The Montreal Canadiens are in a little bit of a better position. They have Doc, who I'm not a huge fan of, but at the end of the day, he is a center. He has health issues, but if he's healthy, could he score 45 points? I don't think that's that bad. I mean, they have Jake Evans. They have the man, the myth, the legend, Nick Suzuki, who I mean, he's a solidified number one center in my opinion. So, I mean, they're not that bad, but all of these teams definitely require a second line center. Let me put it this way when it comes to the Red Wings, the Canucks, or the Habs. All of these teams would be a perfect fit, in my opinion, for McTavish, but it's going to have to be an overpayment. I've been consistent with this, that if you're going to pry him out of Anaheim, you're going to have to overpay for him. The number one team on my list that would be okay with an overpayment is the Habs, because they have so much assets. Like, they have draft picks, they have prospects, and I'm like, it would definitely put a dent in those. You don't want to completely clear the cupboard, but, it is what it is. I think Vancouver could probably put a decent package, and so could Detroit. Like, I think both those teams could still perk Anaheim's ears up, but we'll have to see. So let's hear from Habs, Canucks, and Detroit Red Wings fans. What are you guys willing to have your team give up? That's what I want to hear. I'm really interested to see exactly what are you guys willing to give up, and make it realistic. Don't just make it, I'm going to give them a third round pick and a prospect that nobody wants, that we know isn't going to happen. It's interesting. Another thing about the Vancouver Canucks that relates back to this is they are in the same division as the Anaheim Ducks. That is the one thing that I keep on going back to. And whenever you trade within your division, especially, you tend to have to give up a lot more. So that is where I kind of sit and pause and think, that might be a little bit more difficult for the Canucks. So they might have to give up too much there. It's because they might want to trade them to the east, to the Detroit Red Wings or the Montreal Canadiens. It just might make more logical sense, if you understand what I mean. Anyways, guys, I am going to leave this video here. If you could make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it, guys. And make sure to have a great day. Goodbye, guys.